So after 2 weeks since Apple released the official version of iOS 26, today Apple has rolled out its very first update, iOS 26.0.1. In this video, let's quickly experience iOS 26.0.1 together and see what's new. I'll be testing it on my iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is already quite an old device, to check how it performs. Stay tuned until the end to see the results. First, let's talk about the update size. I updated from iOS 26.0 to iOS 26.0.1, and the size was around 503.7 megabytes. In Apple's release notes for iOS 26.0.1, they mention that this update provides important bug fixes and security updates, including Wi-Fi and Bluetooth issues, fixed random disconnections on iPhone 17 series devices. Interestingly, Apple only lists iPhone 17, iPhone 17 Air, and iPhone 17 Pro, not the 17 Pro Max. Cellular connectivity bug. Some iPhone users were unable to connect to mobile networks after updating to iOS 26. This update fixes that issue across all supported devices. Camera bug on iPhone 17, iPhone 17 Air, and iPhone 17 Pro, photos taken under certain lighting conditions could show unexpected elements. App icon bug. Some app icons could appear blank after applying custom colors to the home screen. This has now been fixed. VoiceOver issue. VoiceOver could become disabled for some users after updating to iOS 26. Notably, Apple didn't mention anything about battery improvements. I know some users have complained about battery drain after updating to iOS 26, but this update doesn't specifically address that. We'll need to test it ourselves to see if there's any improvement. Also, Apple didn't add any new features in iOS 26.0.1. This release focuses solely on bug fixes and security patches. Alongside iOS 26.0.1, Apple also released iPadOS 26.0.1 for iPad Pro 12.9-inch 3rd Gen and newer, and iOS 18.7.1 for users who don't want to update to iOS 26. Now, let's move on to performance testing. I first tested multitasking by opening and closing multiple apps quickly. I noticed it wasn't as smooth as iOS 26.0, but keep in mind my iPhone 11 Pro Max is quite an old device, and performance usually stabilizes after a few days. Next, I ran benchmark tests. And Tattoo. On iOS 26.0, my device scored 979,000. On iOS 26.0.1, it scored 1,020,000, a slight increase, but not a big deal. Geekbench 6. On iOS 26.0, single core scored 1773, multi-core 3877. On iOS 26.0.1, single core dropped to 1711, multi-core to 3328, a noticeable decrease, especially multi-core performance, down by over 500 points. 3D Mark Wildlife Unlimited test. On iOS 26.0, the score was 7,919 with an average FPS of 47.7. On iOS 26.0.1, it dropped to 7,677 with 46 FPS. So, overall performance results show only Antutu improved slightly, while Geekbench and 3D Mark both recorded lower scores. However, in everyday usage, like browsing, watching videos, scrolling TikTok or Facebook, the device still feels smooth with no major lag issues. Now, let's discuss battery and temperature. I started testing at 48% battery at 9:52 p.m., and after updating and using the phone continuously until 10:58 p.m., the battery dropped to 25%. That's a 23% drain in about 60 minutes. That feels a bit high. Though keep in mind, my iPhone 11 Pro Max battery health is down to 77%. Right after updates, battery optimization usually takes a few days. So this is just an initial impression. Real results require 3 to 4 days of usage. As for temperature, it's been stable. The device stayed cool during normal use. It only warmed up slightly during benchmarks like Antutu, but cooled down quickly afterwards. No overheating issues in daily tasks. Conclusion. iOS 26.0.1 mainly targets bug fixes, especially for iPhone 17 series and cellular connection issues. If you're on iOS 26 and everything is already working fine, battery, stability, connectivity, you don't necessarily need to update. But if you had problems like dropped signals or app icon glitches, then updating is worth it. That's all for today's video. What do you think about iOS 26.0.1? Leave your comments below so others can check them out too. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.